Yeah, how's it? No, I didn't send a link. So if you go onto the One Way page on YouTube, okay, now right at the top, there should be a little video that says live or something. So you've got all the preloaded videos that I've done in the past are across above that. Lekker, bro. Okay. So there's going to be a bit of a delay, about 3 seconds between us talking on the phone and okay. All right. So I'm going to put the computer in the position and then just well, this is quite a noisy crowd here tonight, bro. Okay. Just can you hear me now? Okay, so even if I'm talking now like this, you can hear myself. Henry, say something.
No.
Okay, speak up a little bit.
Kevin, you get me?
Okay, okay, cool. All right, so obviously when the hall quiets down, I think we'll have a better, easier for you guys to hear. So I'm just going to leave you on now. I'm not going to log out. So yeah, we'll start in the next couple of minutes. Yeah? Okay, cool, sure. All right, just. Huh? Oh, really, huh? Oh, yeah, full on, bro. Flop. Huh? Ah, lekker, bro. Yeah. Must be nice, huh? All right. No, I didn't. Just clean my face. Literally about as far as like, can I just send you that?
You're not going to leave this. This is not the fear one. This is the write down all the things in the past.
Let's get it together, right? Sure. Huh?
Hey?
What you guys have?
I'll put it in the
We
group.
can put it on the group. Yeah.
But this is the one that we wanted to send out. Yeah.
But we did last week.
Yeah, but it was on the group. It wasn't actually paid.
No, we did. We handed it.
Okay.
We're on top of things.
Are we waiting for some time?
Yeah.
Yes, you're so sensitive, eh? Can you make them small? So we just
Should we hand it out? Just maybe.
they'll start reading it as they
Okay. Can hand it out afterwards, yeah?
What do you think, Jimmy? Afterwards. Or now? If we do it now, then they can actually follow. So see it directly here.
Yeah.
This is in here.
So start with the hand it out. Okay. Huh? Yeah.
Just three little staples. Just
What?
Stapled ones to go on.
Okay, cool guys, we're just about to start. Yeah, so on your seats, sorry, please excuse me, my voice is like, I don't know where it is, but it's definitely not here with me tonight, so please bear with me. Also, if I can ask you to please bear with Henry, he's got quite a strong accent, but if you listen carefully, you can follow. I'm just going to be handing out some material for you guys to go through while we're busy here tonight, also for you to take home with you. But before we do that, please fill out your prayer request cards that were on your chair. If you've got prayer for anything, breakthrough in any area, like it starts with handing it over to the Lord. So I really want to encourage you, whatever it is, write it down on that piece of paper, give it to God, let Him start to work that miracle, but if we don't ask, we won't get. So step out in faith, write that thing down. I'm standing here because somebody was praying for me at one point. So I really want to encourage you guys to write down any prayer requests over there. So yeah, please, if you can start handing out to everybody else, if there's enough, we can hand out to the one-way people. If there is short, we can give the one-way guys extra copies tomorrow. Okay. A couple of other announcements. Please turn your cell phone on silent. And then, yeah, we are also heading towards the end of the year, guys. So next week, no, not next week. Next week is a normal meeting. Support side, addiction side, normal meeting, 2 locations here, Melkbos. Yeah, so the week after that, the week of the 12th, we're going to be having a bit of a social evening. It's going to be like our year-end function. We're just going to have a bit of fun and enjoy the evening. We'll bring some pizzas, a couple of games, and yeah, so we're just going to have a really relaxed time just to celebrate the year that we've been through, because it's been quite a hectic one. And then the week after that, the week of the 19th, is going to be our last official meeting for the year. Okay, so we're not going to be meeting in these groups until the 9th of January again. But please, we are still available on our mobile phones. We're not just switching you guys off completely, but us as leaders also have to take a break at some point and also need to spend time with our families and recharge our batteries. But like I said, we are always available on our mobile devices for guidance, assistance, praying over situations, helping you through whatever it is that you're going through. So please make use of that lifeline. And what else? I think that was it for announcements right now. All right, so Henry has got something very special for us tonight. We've been going through these power sessions over a period of time where we're spending time focusing on different areas, different things. And Henry, from his professional point of view, he is digging a little bit deeper. Tonight's topic is fear. You guys asked for it and we're bringing it, okay? So we are speaking about fear tonight. But before we go into the actual, what do you call it, session, Henry is going to enlighten us with a bit more psychology behind fear, just to broaden our minds a little bit so that we can also understand fear from a deeper point of view. So please, if you can't hear, can I ask you to maybe move a little bit more forward or whatever? Can I ask us to try and keep quiet while Henry's speaking? This hall is very echoey, as you can hear. My voice bouncing all over. His voice doesn't bounce as much as mine. So just listen carefully. We're obviously going to elaborate on some of the points as we go through. So let's open up in prayer real quick. Yeah. Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you this evening and we just hand this this session over to you, Lord. I pray that this session will be meaningful, Lord, that we can all leave here tonight having learned something new about fears, where they come from, why we go through them, and also different things and ways to overcome those fears, Lord, because we all sit here and we all face the same challenges. So I just pray that you'll come into the space here tonight, Lord. I pray that you'll open our hearts to receive this message, and I also just pray that this message will be clear enough for us to understand. I pray that you'll bless this meeting and every family that's represented here. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, thank you. Oh yes, prayer requests. Sorry, can I just grab these things? Yes, I'm coming up.
You're on. Right? Oh, here it is. I saw a Buds and Sparks car broke down today, eh? Was that your car? What did you do? Was a car. Oh. Cool.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. Okay. Over to you, Henry. Awesome.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for coming to the power session. And from the research that we did, the Monday report, most of the answers was pointing to fear. So that is one of the reasons why we're digging so deep and trying to give us a broader understanding and how we can deal with it. So to start this session, the thing is, I want to understand, like, in terms of what fear, the viewpoint, our viewpoint on fear, like, for mine, my point of fear is going to be different. The way I understand fear is going to be different. And the way you understand fear is going to be different. So if anybody can, just tell us what they think or what the fear is, If anybody can just give an answer, that can help.
Your only fear is God.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Good.
What's the question?
What
do we fear, or what is our understanding?
What does it mean here? What is the understanding of fear?
I think that, so my understanding of fear would be the discomforts caused by not knowing.
Okay.
Because you don't know what the outcome is going to be of something, therefore you can fear.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I was told way back, fear stands for false evidence, period, to be real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so every time you have that fear factor over you, just know it's false evidence,
Sure.
period, to be real. It's not. So face it up.
That's a good one.
Good.
Okay. Dominic.
I don't feel I'm using it
Okay.
Okay.
because I believe if I use it again, God will punish me. I believe it's going to lead to death for me.
Okay. So your fear is around substance abuse and higher power.
And because I got a sponsor that's paying for me. It's been paying for me for like the last year. And this is this thing. This is now a really Christian life. And it's so because of God that He is our peace. I feel that it's God that gave me this opportunity to come, guys. And if I don't take this opportunity and start throwing it in His face, it's not going to be pleased with that. So,
Yeah. So I just want to quickly just jump in there because you guys have both brought up the same point about fearing God. And, we are all taught these days, New Testament, God is all forgiving, all gracious, all, you know what I mean? And that is awesome. He is those things. But also we got to remember that God is a God of discipline as well. And if we're going to continue to carry on like naughty children, He will punish us. We will feel the wrath of God. And that is the truth. So we must also fear God is 100% correct. Because when we step out of line, He can discipline us in any which way He chooses. But He is a forgiving and gracious God. So there's a difference between me making a mistake and me deliberately sinning. When I deliberately sin, I can face the consequences of that sin. If I make a mistake and I truly repent and ask for forgiveness, there's grace in that. So that is what we need to understand about that. So, but fearing substance relapse, those are good fears.
Okay.
Anyone else? No? Loss. Okay.
Okay, the only reason why this is important is because we all have a different point of view when it comes to fear. And it's good to understand each and every one of us from a different point of view. So moving forward, in psychology, like fear involves a high individual emotional response, which alerts us to the presence of danger or to the threat of harm, whether that danger is physical or psychological. Now, let's use this background knowledge to understand ourselves. And through this understanding, we are able to predict the future of the outcome that our fear or fears can lead to. This prediction can either be positive or negative in effect, as I explained further. With this knowledge in hand, further down as we go through this topic of fear, we will talk about fears and use this knowledge and understanding and describing fear or fears when we get to the point in the session. So if you, like the pamphlet that you guys have, most of the way, I like to phrase this now. Most of the way that you can deal with fear is actually on them. So we're going to, as we go down, we're going to further discuss that. So we're going to look into the positive effect of fear or fears. So when we overcome fear or fears, the relief we feel and the positivity or newness which becomes a growth and gives us more growth. Meaning if our fears are successfully dealt with, it is likely that our emotional response to that threat or danger becomes neutral or new, and then we can flourish. It gives us more room for growth. So with the positive effect of fear, if we look at suicide, like people that are actually mutilating, and the fact that people are trying, it's like trying and try and error, You never know when the actual suicide is going to happen. Like the person is just actually mutilating, cutting. But there'll be a point that maybe they hang themselves, but somebody came in and saved them. But it's just try and error. But there'll be a day that somebody is not going to be there, or they can mutilate, and it's going to be deeper than how they expected the cut is, how deep they expected the cut to be, and then they will bleed so much that nobody can save them, and they're gone. So it's the same thing with fear. If we successfully deal with fear, like most people that are attempting to commit suicide, they're also scared, right? And if they can deal with that suicide, their fear level is going to, they're going to get more better, and then they won't be so scared, They're not going to be scared anymore. They're going to be, it's going to give them more room to grow, There'll be more positivity, there'll be more newness, there'll be more things to be grateful for and more things to be happy. I'm happy with life for. So that is a positive thing about fear. If we can deal with this successfully and overcome it, we have more room for growth, and we can
definitely.
become something good and great. So looking at the negative part of fear, if we're looking at the negative part of fear, we look at the danger. This is determined by the nature or the reason behind our fear. It can be fear from addiction, life crisis, traumatic events, economic crisis, relationship crisis. It can be abuse, it can be religion. So our emotional response to fear is determined by the natural threat or danger we face. Our fear is dependable on the threat or danger that triggers it. So it means that danger or threat is constant, but our emotional response is not, because it is determined by external influence. So that means that we can be confused or damaged from time to time, meaning our emotional response can change. So it is a two-way street. The threat that we face that scares us and changes our emotional response is a two-way street. That our emotional response is not constant. You know, if things are good, you're happy. If things are bad, you're scared.
Yep.
You know, so if it's not constant, that means you're able to change it.
Yeah.
You know, shouldn't live in fear forever, because the thing that controls it is external influences, things around the world, things that we don't have. Sometimes we don't have control over it, but we do have control over our fears. So that is the meaning of that.
Does everyone understand that?
Cool.
Fears are not always the same. A person can change. If you're having a good day, you feel good. If you're having a bad day, you feel fear. So therefore, you can change your fear in the state of mind if you want to.
Something you can overcome here. Good.
Okay, so with this understanding of fear, this is like a broader, understanding that I can put in for the group, for us to understand where fear is, and which is common, is prevalent for everyone. It's not just specifically for addiction. It's also for people who are not addicts. It's also for people on the support side. It's for people with dealing with addiction. So now, for us to bring that understanding into addiction, it means that we need to look into the context of why we're here, you know, addiction itself and what we're dealing with. So, with the context of addiction, we begin by framing fear around disorders that are associated with fear in connection to our context, which is addiction, meaning that in all aspects of addiction, from active addiction to non-active or inactive, to support group, this is what fear can lead to if we don't deal with it successfully. It can lead to disorders.
Yeah. Does everybody know what disorders are? Okay. We're going to mention this now. So if you don't deal with your fear, okay, this is what it can lead to. You may think that you're just tucking it away and you're going to overcome it with whatever pills or whatever the case may be. But if you don't deal with your fear and handle it head on, mentally, you could potentially become a person with a disorder, which is like, I think I read you earlier, anxiety disorder, PTSD. What other ones did you mention here?
There's a lot.
Social anxiety, phobias, panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, agoraphobia. Okay. Now, you know, we often laugh at those people who like wash their hands 20 times, or they're very afraid of spiders, or they're acting crazy. Guys, the next time you see someone like that, understand that that is what happens long term if you don't deal with your issues in the beginning. It progresses, like you mentioned with the suicide. If someone's mutilating themselves, cutting, one day he will get it right and there won't be anybody to save him.
Sure.
Did he want to commit suicide? Maybe, maybe not. The point is, it's a progressive thing. Sin is a progressive thing. We do it once, not so bad. We do it twice, 3 times, it starts getting a bigger problem. Eventually we get it right. Okay, so that's the same with fear. Fear can result in any one of these things, which is something you need to go see the doctor about. Now you need to go on meds. Now you need to go see a counselor, maybe a psychologist. Henry's always available, guys. Maybe you need to see a psychiatrist even. Now it's going to start costing you money. Do you see the problem's just getting bigger and bigger? Now it's not just a psychological problem, it's now a financial problem as well. Oh, but I can't afford to see a psychiatrist, so you neglect the problem. And the thing gets worse and worse. It never starts off a PTSD or an anxiety problem. It doesn't start there. It starts way back where I am scared of this and I'm scared of that, but I refuse to admit that I'm scared. Tuck it away. Okay, sorry, Henry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Good.
Okay, so if we're looking at negative disorders, that occurs through fear, and like when you don't deal with fear for a long time, and then it just grows to something else, and it's out of your. It's not like you don't understand it, but it can also be controlled, and it can also be attended to.
It can be attended to. Do you see what he's saying there? It can be attended to. You have got the power to change it. So if you're acknowledging that you are fearful of something, that's why we had this little pamphlet that we handed out to the one-way guys. Acknowledging your fear. Phenomenal, because you're actually acknowledging it. Now I can pray about it. Now I can hand it over to the Lord. Maybe I can get my friend to pray for me. I can face my fear. And Henry's going to explain to you how practically you can face your fears with exercises, believe it or not. And it's been proven that it actually does work. Okay.
Yeah, so if you find yourself in any of these situations, it's not like they can't be addressed. They can be addressed. You just need the right advice and the right steps, to get through that. So we're looking at agoraphobia, which is extreme fear of entering open and crowded places or leaving the house. A lot of people deal with fear and they can't even leave their bed, or they can't function, And it's not that they get to that point just because one day they decide they don't want to go out. It's all the time that they've been scared of one particular incident or whatever, and it leads to a lifetime of being afraid and not being able to function anymore. But it can be addressed. It's not the end of the world. So looking at generalized anxiety disorder, which is excessive worrying and extreme anxiety that one cannot function properly each day. So sometimes you have people, it's not like you have people stress about, and it becomes uncontrollable that you can't even, everybody around you that are not, everybody's stressing, but people are noticing that you're stressing, and then it's extreme, like you always wonder if the doors are locked, you always wonder about rent or food or whatever, even things that you shouldn't worry about. It's just this, like you're feeding off that anxiety. The anxiety is giving you, it's feeding you with energy that you can't deal without thinking, without stressing, So that is also, if you find yourself in any of this, I just want to say them so we can identify this. Any of us going through that is something that we need to work on. So we have obsessive compulsive disorder, which is obsessive thought and fear and repeated behaviors. Some people can clean the house like a lot. Every second they want to clean, It's like germs is going to kill us instantly, like germs is going to kill us in a second. But it doesn't work like that, it takes time. So, and the fact is every day you do the same ritual, every day you do the same thing, every day you do the same thing. But that is like, it's obsessive and then it's compulsive because you keep on repeating. It's not healthy because it makes the person look like a freak, you know what I'm saying? In terms of the people around you, it makes you look weird, as a person. So we move into.
I like what you said, You said, bearing in mind that fear is also important. It's a natural feeling that is designed in the human psyche.
Yeah.
That if you do not feel fear, you would also not be able to protect yourself.
Correct.
Do you see? So while it...
I don't feel fear. I don't feel fear at all. And I think maybe there's something wrong with me.
So that is important because the thing is, danger, fear is a feeling of dangers on the rise.
Yeah.
So if we don't feel fear, we can step into a dangerous environment and not be aware of what's happening. So, and you said, yeah, that fear is a vital response to physical and emotional danger. Okay, so fear has got positives.
Correct.
It's important for us not to allow the negatives to override the positives.
Sure, we need to determine which is a healthy fear and which is an unhealthy fear. Once we start to determine which fear sits where, we can start to deal with them in the categories that they belong in.
Okay, so with most of the disorders, the negative part about fear, most of the disorders there's treatment for them. You can have a talk therapy, and you can have medication. So it's not like it's the end of the world. You can have professional advice on how to deal with fear, and there are ways that you can talk about it, and also there are cognitive therapies that can help in terms of the behaviors and how to go around. And then you have panic attacks. And panic attacks come mostly when people don't want to be truthful about things. So they keep it inside sometimes, like they keep that fear inside so much, and they don't want to be truthful about it. And then when they're confronted with the situation, they have panic attack. But sometimes it's also people that have had a traumatic experience, and maybe they experience similar situation or something closer to that. They can have panic attack immediately. But just has to do with not addressing fear and not being honest or open about our feelings and what is stressing us and what is actually putting the fear inside us. And you have anxiety phobia, panic attacks, and social phobias. Yeah. So all these negative effects our mental and physical well-being, and we start making poor choices or decisions because of all the continuous confusion with our emotional response to that danger or threat. Sure. So, with all this discussion, right, we can use this to understand fear, and we can use this to predict our future if we've dealt with our fear or we are going to have issues in the future with our fears, which is like disorders and the rest. So put in mind, one of the things to put in mind is that if people don't feel fear, they will not be able to protect themselves from legitimate threats. Fear is a vital response to physical and emotional danger. So one of the things that we need to take away from this discussion so far is response to danger. And we also need to take response and danger. That is, from all these things that we've discussed, what we need to take from there is response and danger. The response to emotional threat and all that, and the danger about fear. So we move on to, so we're going to have discussions. I'm going to ask Martin in terms and a few questions. And so if we look at the side of addiction and awareness, in addiction, like what were you scared of? What was your fear in addiction?
What was I scared of in my addiction? What was my fears in my addiction? Sure. Well, while I was in active addiction, I think fears were a constant thing. There were very many fears from all aspects, to from not being able to get my next fix. That was a fear. That was a real fear. Overdose was a fear. The fear of staying stuck in this addiction for the rest of my life and not getting out. That was a fear. Fear of getting locked up and thrown in jail. Fear of, sure, I don't know, the list goes on and on. There was a time where I was going into psychosis. That was a fear. You know, that was a reality. Like, you know, will I go into full-blown psychosis and not come out of it? Because the drug-induced psychosis was just temporary. It was kind of like just touching and coming back and touching and coming back. But at what point was that going to all change? At what point was I not going to be able to come back from that? So there was many, many fears. I had 2 children. I had a fear of losing my 2 children through my addiction. There was just so many different fears. I think, though, one of my fears, though, in my addiction, when I got to a point where I realized I needed to do something about my addiction, that opened up a whole new can of fears. Because what was going to happen when I stopped using? You see, there were so many fears attached to staying stuck in addiction, and we don't always think about the fears that are attached to what's going to happen when I start getting clean or stop using the substance, because my body's going to go through a detox. You know, I'm going to feel weak. I'm going to feel horrible. Like, I'm going to go through this thing. Like, what does it look like? The future of me getting clean and sober. That fear is so real that sometimes people won't take that step into starting their journey of recovery, because that fear is so real that it can cripple you enough to keep you stuck in addiction. Because if you speak to anybody that's really gone through the benders, cold turkey, like really just, it's not a pleasant place to be. And you hear these stories. So even if you've never tried to get clean before, you've heard the stories. I don't know why we don't fear getting stuck in addiction. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, life's a party. Let's just pop a couple of pills, a couple of lines of cocaine. Life is awesome. We don't fear getting stuck in addiction. But once we're stuck in addiction, we fear getting out of addiction. It's quite crazy. I'll get to you in a moment. So, you know, like Henry was saying, we've got to learn ways to overcome these fears. You were saying just now, it's false evidence appearing real. Well, I'll tell you what, when I did take that step and I did stop using drugs, was it bad? Yeah, it was hectic. But it wasn't as bad as what I was perceiving it to be. You see, because when I was stuck in my mind, I let that fear be more than what it was. I let my mind play on that, and it created this thing that was bigger than what it was. So yeah, many, many fears while I was stuck in addiction. We're going to move to Tamza with the next question, or?
And like the last question for you would be, like right now in the present,
Yeah.
are you scared of anything? Are there new fears that you're dealing with?
So, okay, I want to just go back a moment over here, because this is actually a 3-part question, and I kind of like only moving now to the last part. So I want to just talk very quickly about what were my fears while in recovery. Okay, so I am obviously still kind of in recovery. I think I've kind of moved past that, though. I am living a life of recovery, so I'm not ever away from that, but I'm not in those early days of recovery. And I think my biggest fears while I was in recovery was that I wasn't going to get it right, that I was going to relapse, that when I did relapse, it would be so much worse and I wouldn't make it back. I wouldn't be able to stop using again. The other fears in that moment would be, okay, you've been clean and sober for a little while, the tolerance levels are a little bit down, like the fear, the threat of overdosing on your next hit is a lot more real. So there was all of those fears in my recovery. The other things were what people were saying. Was I going to be what other people were saying? Because other people were saying, you can't do this, you'll never get through it, you're not good enough, you're just an addict, you'll relapse again. All of those things was real to me. And I was also scared that I was going to prove them right. So those were fears in my early days of recovery. Moving on to what you've just asked me now, what are my current fears? My current fears are a lot less. Now that I've been clean and sober for a longer period of time, I've learned how to manage things properly. Learned how to manage stress. Learned how to manage my underlying issues that was partly the reason of me becoming an addict in the first place. So I've managed to get control over my life. Have I got fears? Yes, I've still got fears, but they are like a percentage of what I was going through when my mind was saturated with substance. Because when your mind is saturated with substance, you can't think clearly. You can't process things clearly. So when somebody from a sober point of view says, can't you just understand what I'm saying? No, you can't. You can't understand what they're saying because your mind is saturated with substance. You cannot think clearly. So once you start getting clean and sober and the mind starts to repair itself, once you start thinking clearly and from a sober point of view, you start to learn to process things correctly, which helps you categorize, is this a false fear? Is this a fear that I should be concerned about? Like if I step into the main road with my eyes closed, I should be fearing something hitting me. Like that is a real fear and that's okay. Okay, but like other fears are not real. Other fears are just false evidence appearing real. So from a sober point of view, you learn to categorize things and deal with them so that you don't end up falling into a place where all of these disorders start taking over your life. Because if you don't deal with your fears, and fears, like Henry said in the beginning, is something that you can contain.
Yeah.
You see, the thing is, when I invited Christ into my life, see, Jesus is peace. And when I invited Christ into my life, all of a sudden this peace also started entering my life. And this is something that I've also had to embrace and learn what it is and where it's coming from. Because certain things I should be fearing. Normal people in normal circumstances might be fearing things like, hey man, am I going to have enough money at the end of the month to pay all my bills and my accounts? That is a fear that most people carry. But Christ has also given me this peace in my heart to help me overcome these fears. He's given me promises that I can live my life on. I can build my life on those promises, which also helps me overcome those fears. So normal fears that I might have as maybe even a sober person, okay, that's maybe not a Christian, God has also come into my life and helped me deal with those things and given me an inner peace, which also helps me overcome some of those fears, which maybe, like I said, sober people that aren't Christians might still be facing. So, those are my points on fear.
So we're going to...
Can fear come from the devil? He doesn't want you in practice.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Doesn't want you
Of
to
course.
Of course. Puts these things in your mind.
Fear will prevent you from moving forward. You can get so fearful that you can stop in your tracks and you cannot move forward at all. It's paralyzing.
Yeah.
Fear can be paralyzing and you will stop moving forward completely in that moment of fear. Yes, okay, very quickly, and then you, but I want to try and keep the questions till when we move out of the session. Yeah?
I often say to myself, how big is your God and how big is your devil?
Yes.
Because a lot of the times we tend to put God in the box, where he's actually bigger than the box. The devil shines a little candle and makes your shadow look bigger.
Sure.
This time,
Sure.
so every time, I just remind myself that God's bigger than
100%. 100%. God is bigger than our fears. But yes. Oh, is it? Okay, fantastic. Awesome. Cool. We're going to move into a place of questions in a moment. I think let's hand over to you. You've got a question for Tamsin.
So we're going to talk of, like, when Martin was an active addiction, what were your fears then?
Okay, so first of all, it was the fear of not actually knowing who this person is because I was lied to. So I didn't know who is this person. You know, you've been with this person for a certain amount of time and you think you know this person, but you actually don't. So now I actually don't know what I'm dealing with. So that was a big one. And then the fear of the stories that were told to me and the people that actually jumped onto this drama bandwagon were telling me terrible things, and that was creating fear. Like I'm probably got AIDS, and he's had like 20 million freaking orgies or whatever, and blah blah blah. So it was like, you know, like maybe I'm going to be sick. Maybe I need to go have an AIDS test. Maybe I'm going to die. Maybe my kids won't have a mother. So you see how it just starts to get out of control. And then also, there was a lot of fear wrapped around my own judgment, because I always considered myself, and I've got an old friend here, and she knows me very well, but I always considered myself very, very much like on top of things, and I know what I'm talking about. I know. And so this was like a big fear, because I actually didn't know. So for the first time I was faced with, like, well, actually I can't trust my own judgment anymore. So it was a humbling experience, to be honest. Yeah. Oh, and also the fear of my mom finding out and my friends I actually did lose friends in the whole ordeal. So the fear of losing friends and people that kind of warned me, but I didn't want to see it, you know? And and like the whole I told you so and that kind of thing. So that was quite difficult. And obviously with my kids as well, my kids getting involved or being involved, and like involuntarily they were involved. I was suffering fear of their judgments as well, and whether they would still classify me as a good mother, and I think all mothers go through that as well. Yeah.
Did you not fear me dying, maybe?
No, actually, no. At this stage, I did fear him dying, but my anger was so much greater at this stage. I actually, if he was going to die, it would have been me killing him. But so the fear of, at that stage, I don't think I was thinking clearly. I was actually we discussed this natural instinct that takes over was one of a fighter, and I went in blazing guns. So that was my protection, although that was covering up the whole fear in me. So that fear, actually, because I didn't deal with it possibly, I wouldn't say not correctly, but I think I could have done things differently. It resulted in me becoming very much the fighter. So I went to all extents to make his life a living hell. Like, really, really,
She's not joking.
So, like I went to the social welfare, tried to have his kids taken away, got his ex involved, got the whole family involved, I really went all out. He was being tested by the social welfare,
Me out on the street.
and he got thrown out of his house as well, his own house. So so there was, I went, but that's the thing, that's the thing that Sher will probably know, is that fighter in me went overboard. And it wasn't dealt with in a rational manner. I was plotting he's going to pay for what he did. He's going to pay, you know.
So you would say that the fear caused you to become irrational.
I wouldn't say completely irrational, but I do believe, looking back now, I might have been able to handle it a bit differently. Maybe. See, the thing is, initially, we did talk about it, and we did go to the doctor, and we did try to get him sober. But when I saw it wasn't working fast enough, okay, I wanted him to get clean in like 3 months. So 3 months to me was like a long time, and he should be able to get clean. We even got him on methadone and all that stuff, yeah? So when it wasn't working quick enough, I lost my cool, and it was unacceptable to me. I wanted him clean like in 3 months. So that's that whole personality thing coming through. I've got a plan, it will go this way, and if you don't play the game, then it's going to be my wrath kind of thing. But I've changed since then, by the way. I'll just have to put that in there. I'm not as bad as I was. But, hey? So, yeah, so you go through phases as the person that's support. You go through phases. There's that angry phase. I'm sure you felt it, where you throw your loved one out. You absolutely never taking them back. You sell all their things. You go through all of that. And when, it's not a very nice place to be. It's a very complex place to be, because you're fighting inside, you know, am I doing the right thing? You're constantly looking for reassurance. Am I doing the right thing? And I think for mothers, it's the worst. It's the hardest thing to do. There's the fear of this person actually being on the streets and dying, I'm sure. And the fear of them being mugged and killed or taking an overdose or whatever. But I think in my circumstances, I'm only talking about myself now, I didn't think like that. I was thinking, he's going to pay, and he better get himself sorted out. And I was angry, and the anger was way too much on the one side, rather than care and looking at it rationally on the other.
And I just want to come in quickly, it's a bit off topic there, but from an addict or the addiction point of view, when we are faced with that behavior, okay, we think it's unfair. We think that, how can you do those things to me? Because when we are in addiction, we don't understand what we're doing to our loved ones.
Yeah.
So when they start to retaliate with extreme measures and behaviors, we offended. We like, how could you do that to me? Like, you know, but it's only later, once the mind starts to get clear again, do you actually realize how necessary that behavior was. So there was a time where I used to run around and call her the devil. You evil, how can you do these things to a human being? I couldn't fathom why she was doing this to me. Only later, once I got clean and sober, did I actually realize, when I got real with myself and truthful with myself, that if it wasn't for those extreme measures, well, nothing would have changed. So clean and sober me is thankful for those extreme measures. Cool.
Okay, so the second question is, while Martin was in recovery, what were you scared about?
Yeah, so the recovery phase was just as difficult, because there was a relapse. And I don't want to say that relapse, we need to accept that there's a relapse. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that relapse is a journey to recovery. And it happens. It doesn't always happen, but it does sometimes happen. And that relapse is an opportunity to learn. Just putting that in there. But anyway, what I was fearing was obviously relapse. Then him going back to the way that he was before. That fear of handling that. Because I'm sorry, like anyone that's on meth is very freaking evil. Like it's scary, okay? That on its own is a fear, you know. So those memories that I had of what happened was a fear. I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to go through that again. Now, I probably won't even have the support of my mom because she told me maybe it wasn't such a good idea, whatever the case may be. So you're looking at maybe losing more friends and more support, and the fear of being isolated. And obviously the biggest fear of all is this person that you absolutely love, like to bits. Because there's this amazing, and we all know that with the addict is not always evil. Their true self is beautiful. Probably like I've never met an addict that hasn't been beautiful, honestly. But then there's the drugs that takes over. And so then there's that fear of like this amazing, I used to call him my angel, like my absolute angel would be this evil person. And it's just like, it's really psychologically, it messes a person up, eh? I'm sorry, but who vouches for me? I don't want to feel like I'm the only one. You really feel like you are losing your mind. Because 1 minute they're just absolutely angelic, and the next minute you feel like Satan has just visited you. Yeah, so there's that constant battle, and it's that alone, the fear of going back to that was very scary.
Okay, so now in the present, what are you scared? Like, what are you fears?
So, I do have bad days, and I think that even as a Christian, and the walk that I've gone through, the devil will visit me and create doubt, make me feel like what I believe in is not necessarily going to carry me through or carry him through. But I think the fear that I face now, and I do take it to the Lord because I can only do it through him. I can only handle it through him. If I must try and handle this fear on my own, I'm going to start entertaining, because I do actually have a little bit of obsessive compulsive disorder. So that comes through in other things as well. So I have to check myself, because it will start working on my mind and I will start revisiting that thought over and over again. Is that he would lose the love and respect he has for the Lord, because I do believe that the Lord changed him so radically that the mere thought that he would actually start to not trust God for his future is the biggest fear for me, because that is the thing that has given him so if I can put it to you in a very easy way to understand, when someone is on drugs, their brain starts to stagnate in that age group. So you keep on thinking, all the things that everyone else is learning when you're clean, you're not learning those things. So emotionally, you're staying at a level. But with Martin, I saw a miracle, like from his temper tantrums and the way that he used to behave. I used to think he was maybe a bit young for his age, but I saw the healing take place in such a quick space of time. I saw God change him into somebody else, like quickly. So I feel like in the present, I believe that God has healed him and has given him all the years that he's lost. And guys, that is actually in the word, hey? The word says that I will give you back. This is the Lord speaking. I will give you back the years that the locusts have fed off you, like robbed you. Okay, so I'm talking about relationships now. If you've had a horrible relationship with your mom for years, God can give you back those years. And you can have the best relationship. It happened to me. I didn't speak to my mom for a long time. And God gave me back, through my humility and my own healing, he gave me back that relationship. So I feel like that would be my biggest fear now, every day. Okay, not every day, but every second day. I do pray that God would keep his mind sane, keep his mind at peace and sound, and that his heart will continue to yearn for the love of the Lord. Because that's the thing that keeps him in a place of humility. That's the thing that keeps him a family man and a husband and someone who wants to be a good father, for example, to my stepchildren. It's God's love in him that overflows onto our family. And so then me as the wife, I would keep praying that that continues. Okay, but like Henry was saying, now he talks a lot about the psychological side, in practical ways how we can help our minds be put at ease. So with that obsessive compulsive disorder, my patterns of thinking can quite easily slip into a repetitive, I'm not sure, I don't know, I have doubts, and I need to check myself. Because if I don't, it rubs off on him. So, and it's not just in husband and wife's relationship. This can happen with you and your loved one. That's it. That's an addict. It does. Your fears rub off on your addicted partner. Then because of his emotional turmoil, it escalates. And so he then takes it out on you. And then there's this whole circle of complete abuse that's going on. So what my pastor said to me was, you need to be the one that stops the cycle. You no longer should be affected by his behavior. You take it to God and you have your secret prayers with God and you allow God to deal with him or her or whoever. You understand? And that was hard because now you actually have to take that fear and give it away. Like, how do you do that? And I would often find myself pulling it back, going like, I need to control this because I am a bit of a control freak. I will do this. I will fix it. I will make it better. And it's tough. I proved it to myself that I can't do it. So with the Lord's help, I would just take a back seat, pray constantly. It says, the word says you should pray constantly for the people you love, that their mind is sound and that their love is pure and that their love grows, yeah.
So before we just continue, you made a very valid point there where you said you spoke to your pastor and he said the cycle stops with you.
Yeah.
So I kind of had the same conversation with my pastor. He also said the cycle stops with you. And I think we just need to understand that because, that's exactly what it is. The cycle does stop with us. We need to start checking ourselves and our behavior and what are we projecting onto our loved ones, because we can sometimes be so oblivious to our behavior and its negative effect that it's got on our loved ones, and then they start to react in a way that we don't understand why they're reacting in that way to us now. So we need to continually check ourselves. And this is what's amazing with the Lord. He will come into your life and he will help guide you and navigate those things. He will help make you take a look at yourself. My biggest prayer daily is, Lord, open my eyes to how I am to other people. Because I want to be able to stop a bad behavior from my side, because it's going to start rubbing off on somebody else and then they are going to act back to me in a certain way. So that is quite a powerful thing. Like, let it stop with you. Your question now.
So how do you behave? Is it normal for the woman to start getting crazy after the first month?
Completely normal.
Right. Sooner more possessive, more in your case. But yet, you do the power, that's not the same. It's not good for ourselves to know what's going on. Because I can feel like the victim in the last one. Like, I always feel like I can staying away from the
Okay.
things are gone. And it's like, from her side, she keeps explaining, and from my side, I keep explaining.
Yeah.
And it's like this miscommunication between both of us.
Okay.
And I keep getting told, like, you're not doing the eyes.
Cool.
And even this evening, before I go to this meeting, I was crying like the whole day, like, what is going on here?
Okay.
And she's just like, you don't see what I'm seeing.
Okay. Cool.
And I'm like, what am I not seeing?
Okay.
You know what? I love your approval, everything that
Yeah.
you said, unfortunately, you put everything to the up.
Okay.
And I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I love you, that's what she meant.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's how I'm going.
Sure. Okay.
You know, it's part,
Yeah.
I know it's a big argument, but like,
Okay.
is it normal for them like?
So if I can try and answer that for you, in just a short summary, it is quite normal, okay? But, okay, jokes aside, yes, it is quite normal, but I want to say this, 99% of the time when that sort of behavior started to occur, it was something that I was doing to cause it. Okay, that is something that we need to also understand. Okay, because
I've started obsessing while I'm alive. I'm more obsessive about situations.
Okay.
And at the same time, like, I keep telling them, like, you are not my counselor.
yeah,
I'm not counselor. I still be my counselor.
sometimes talking less is better as well. And sometimes just let her vent because sometimes she's just venting because she needs to get off her chest, and you just should be an ear rather than a mouth. Because we can always talk back, that's easy. We can always put in our 5 cents, but to actually sit and listen and walk away and go and process what's been spoken before we sit down and actually have that conversation further, that is something that is not easy. That is years of practice. If you get it right, let me know. No, but that is really a thing. And honestly, can I tell you something? Like a lot of our arguments, we've also got to understand that we come from different backgrounds, a woman, a man, we think differently. A lot of the times when we're stuck on a point, we're actually trying so hard to get our point across, and actually we are talking about the same thing. It's just we're looking at it from different angles. One of my mentors showed me a little graph a couple of years back, which helps me today still. Okay, when you look at a cone, okay, you know, ice cream cone or whatever the case. If you look at a cone, all right, from the side, you see a triangle. But when you look at it from the top, you see a circle. So maybe your fiance or wife or girlfriend, whoever, is arguing about the circle, and you arguing about the triangle. Okay? But at the end of the day, you actually are arguing about something that's actually quite relevant. When you step back and you look at it from each other's point of view, you'll see that actually it's maybe a cone that you're talking about, and that each of your points are valid. So that is also something to consider. Yeah? Cool. Okay.
So now we're just going to have conversations around our fears. If there's anyone that wants to share what they're scared about, and we can just have that conversation now. And after that, for a few minutes, and then we can go into the final phase of the session.
Cool. Cool.
Who would like to start?
If you can try and speak up a little bit, will be great, because we've got Malpos is listening in. So.
My biggest fear, I would say, is my son becoming an addict.
Sure.
Because my ex-husband is an addict, I'm a heroin addict, so my biggest fear is him turning out to be an addict. And
Sure.
I don't know if I'm able to handle it.
Okay. That's quite a good one. This is a topic that I've been thinking about quite often. I've also got children that were born into addiction. I was in active addiction when my kids were born. They knew their first couple of years, they only knew me as an addict. That was a behavior I showed them. But instead of hiding it from them, now that I'm recovered, instead of not speaking about it, I'm very vocal with them about what I went through, what it did to me, how much time of my life it robbed, how much money I wasted in my addiction. I speak about all of those hectic, negative things. They can see what I do. I work in addiction recovery. I run these meetings. They can see my life is dedicated to this now. And through that, I'm hoping to project a healthy fear onto them, as to see, Brew, whatever that was that you tried, because I even keep telling them, bro, I smoked weed once and I was hooked instantly. I was gonna smoke weed again. I took one ecstasy tablet, I was hooked. I was gonna take more pills. I smoked tick once, I was hooked. I was gonna smoke meth again. My kids now are 14 and 17. Correct, yeah.
You won't talk to young children about it.
Yeah. They understand it. They're exposed to drugs at school. Their friends are all trying to smoke weed now. That was the age that I was exposed to it as well. But they are anti. Like my oldest son, like he won't even think of putting a cigarette to his lips, because he can see what I went through in my addiction, and that has made him anti. Okay.
Anyone else? Dominic?
I think what I picked up like long time ago, as such as surface now since last week come thing, is that word abandonment.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I couldn't label it anything. So I used to have the fear of not being loved. So I put it those spiral days, and you just spiral so far down that there's two options. The one option is if nobody comes to fetch you out of that spiral and love you, then you rely anyway.
Yeah, correct.
If they do fetch you out of that spiral and they hug you and they hold you and so much they love you, then that fear that you have is out of the window. They actually do nothing.
Yeah, cool.
So and that's happened. Like with really bad days, like when you just not feeling loved, that you just almost like what somebody was saying, you don't want to commit suicide, so you let the alcohol commit suicide for you.
Sure.
Let that be your
Correct. So, sorry, I'm just jumping in all the time over here. Like, I hear you. That was one of my biggest issues, abandonment. Okay. What I had to learn through my abandonment thing was by living that, I was giving that control to other people. I had to learn to take control of that abandonment issue. And I had to start living in a place of victory for myself. Because when I was putting that in other people's hands, why should I go through a relapse because somebody else isn't giving me what I think I deserve? You understand? So I had to start looking deep within myself to become secure within myself and not have to rely on external sources to give me the fulfillment that I was craving.
So that's also what Henry was talking about. The initial fear is abandonment.
Yeah.
And because we don't deal with the abandonment, we then put everybody else in a place where if they don't give you what you deserve, then you end up using or getting a disorder or whatever the case may be. So you're putting the power into someone else's hands. That's what Martin's saying. What Henry's saying is if you tackle the fear of abandonment, you're potentially handling that thing only, and it can stop there rather than it results in
Obsessive, compulsive.
whatever
It's
else.
just so weird because I might feel strong now coming here with the support group. I'm strong. I feel talk about my abandonment things.
Yeah.
Like now I've surfaced that I'm a narcissist as well. So I can talk about that. But now, like you were talking in terms of that you would want to be losing friends. So Stacey's like losing friends. I've already lost my friends.
Yeah.
I've lost my friends, I've lost my family. But now, you know, I fear that for her and of what she's going to do.
Sure.
Sometimes the devil can attack you and then they go after your partner.
Of course.
Correct.
You cause strife and division in between you and your partner walking this journey together.
Absolutely, yes. So it would be advisable that you tackle the abandonment issue because you said something about being a narcissist. So abandonment issues says, no one loves me. My parents didn't think I was important enough, mom or dad. Then you create an image of what the perfect, in your case, woman is. This is the perfect woman, because I didn't get it from anywhere else. So I'm idolizing now that this is the perfect woman. And when you meet this woman, and let's say Stacey, she fits the criteria, 100%. Infatuation, madly in love from the word go. You didn't feel like this about anyone else. It just happened, and she's the perfect woman. But slowly but surely, she's a human being, so she makes mistakes. Maybe she doesn't put the cap on the toothpaste. Maybe she swears. Maybe she says something that reminds you just a little bit of your mom. you start going, oh, she's not that perfect. How dare she actually ruin my image of woman? Okay.
Sure.
So you start becoming angry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's also where you can result in drinking excessively. Why is this happening? She's supposed to be so perfect. She's ruining my life. She's pushing me to drink.
It's her fault.
But in actual fact, you are giving her so much power over your ability to stay sober or not, or being happy or not. And I really resonate with you, because I also had issues with men in the exact same way, just in an opposite sex. So this is the perfect man. He's wonderful. Sure knows me. I had relationships. This is the guy. He's perfect. I'm in love. Marry him. And then as soon as they just do one or two little things wrong, it's bad. Okay. And that is us not understanding what we truly value, what we truly want. And it's okay that this person is human and they make a mistake. We can't accept that, because we can't accept the flaws that we have. You see, you're projecting. Okay, listen, you can stop me at any time, hey? Henry, he's actually the psychologist here. I'm only talking from experience, but he's actually talking.
Okay, so if we were discussing about abandonment issues, and having that thought of abandonment every time is also obsessive compulsive behavior, because you are always thinking about people abandoning you, but even if it's in the reality, it's not really happening. And then it's a repeated thought, you think about it every time. So that is a disorder in itself, and I think you need to deal with that, If not, it's going to push you to, you're not going to be able to function, You're going to start doing other things to maintain the emotional response that you're getting, Maybe drinking or whatever, things that are not good for you or your partner. So I think that you need to deal with that, and then you can start having the relief that
First and foremost,
Yeah.
definitely.
Any other questions, Dominique?
Another question, well, I was just say that, but I expected that I should get negative to feel or not inside, anxious, social anxiety, I start by myself now, school day, or going on that I get 9 people outside. And I have a chance of life. And another thing that came up with fear for me was that decision making, just ordinary decision making every day. I would overcomplicate everything.
Didn't you say that?
Everything.
Yeah.
Because of this fear, and even lots of opportunities that I had in life, which actually caused me by because of this fear.
Correct.
Job opportunities, things. I would find myself procrastinating. Like because of certain things, I must go to this, must go here, then I'm looking for people, there for this type of work or whatever, and it's like procrastinating, present with stuff. But over the time, I'm still up here, I'm still going to be it's happening. Too late now. So I feel this is like holding back.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. It's the biggest anchor that there is. It literally stops you dead in your tracks.
So actually, that's exactly what you said in your one section, was the decision making becomes complex.
Yeah. So now that is also a disorder, because you're dealing with extreme anxiety. You're restless. So it has to do with generalized anxiety disorder. So that also needs to be addressed. You can have talk therapy, you can have cognitive therapy. Most of the things need to be brought into consciousness.
Totally.
I've just started, this is just happening now, because we were talking outside. As a narcissist, I'm understanding that I lack everything.
Yeah.
Okay? And now we were talking, that part of my fear came out, and I know I shouldn't say sorry, but I fear saying the word sorry, because I opened myself up now to be sensitive, vulnerable.
Yes.
You're going to use this against me.
But did you know, and I want to just say,
anger. Yeah, if the anger has happened, it's painful to the other person. Yes, exactly how I used to feel a lot of my life. So I don't want to say sorry because then I'm putting myself out.
Okay, I just want to say,
Give me an example. So last night, yesterday, everything was great. So I was speaking sick and I was meant to MC at Kirstenbosch because I have the MC for Kirstenbosch some Saturday. Got it, and I cancelled my gig because I was sick. And I was laying in bed. And this one gets in the bed and he goes, baby, I love you. Next year it's going to be great. I'm going to make you so proud in 2023. And I'm going, what the hell does this man have? And I know there's something. So I keep going and I carry on watching my series on my laptop. And then he comes back. He goes, I want 2 bottles up here and I want wine now. So I said, excuse me, I don't have any money. Remember, I didn't go to bed today. That's fine. Well, I don't have you. And this isn't going to work out. So
Sure.
you're not ready for me.
Yeah.
And this was 10 minutes before he just told me he's going to make me proud.
Okay.
Next year, you're going to come.
Next year.
So I'm like, what kind of are you on? Did you go drink downstairs or whatever?
Okay.
And that's when my abandonment comes from, because with him, I go, you know what? Why don't you just rather walk out of the class and leave me to be? Then he feels abandoned.
Yes,
So it
correct.
causes abandonment.
Yeah.
It causes, and I understand that you went alcohol now, I'm going to go walk down the road and come out to get you alcohol,
Sure.
which I wouldn't do before. Thank you, I would do it. But I was his feeder.
Correct.
So you feeding him now.
Correct.
You have it right, you have it alcohol there. You've got a whole lot of friends, you know. You got all the alcohol and you go directly that way. And to me, last night, I said, not a chance. I'm not going to get
Yeah.
alcohol back.
Good.
I said,
100%. Good.
And I turned around. And I thought, you know what, tonight I'm not going to fight him. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go to sleep. Because I'm actually not interested in the way he feels, right?
Correct.
And it
Good.
was yapping and yapping and going on and on and on and on and on until the shop had closed. So I was like, the shop's closed, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? But, you know, it's been going on for so long that I'm so glad that he's here because from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, no drinking. Sunday, go. It hit me. And I was like, what do you do about this? You know, you're sitting in a position where, okay, my dad used to do it, I'm not going to lie. My dad, when I grew up, my dad, my mom didn't. My mom was an anti-drinker. So when we grew up, we were either going to be an alcoholic.
Yeah.
My sister is an alcoholic. 3 of us are. I've never taken cocaine. I was a South African. I've smoked weed a few times because everybody just tries it.
Sure.
The same of it.
Sure.
But my mom always said to me, Stacey, you know, your lungs are so bad, you've got to be really asthmatic. Your lungs are so bad. If you ever sniff anything up your nose, you're going to die, right?
Sure.
So she put the fear of body from a very young age. You know, she put the fear of body, and I tell her right now, I say thank you
Yeah.
for doing it.
Yeah.
Because I've never had any trouble. I've never ever signed up with this. I've never ever wanted to. I've never been addicted to I was only addicted to cigarettes, which now I'm very no difference does make, you know.
Sure.
But I mean, dealing with something who is a
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a very difficult thing. And
Correct.
it actually messes with your mind.
Correct.
Exactly what you said
Yeah.
is what I feel.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like I've protected myself
Yeah.
from everybody.
so be very careful because you can also end up with a disorder, hey? You can end up with anxiety disorder, you can
Correct.
end up with PTSD.
Yeah.
What other ones there? PTSD, anxiety, even the obsessive compulsive, social phobia.
Yeah. But,
But obsessive,
yeah.
listen, obsessive compulsive guys is not just someone who cleans a lot, eh?
eating.
Okay, obsessive compulsive. Explain.
It's
Explain it.
more of repeated image in your head and
Yes.
repetition of that image. If someone doesn't love me or they don't care about me, and even while they show you physical connection or whatever, they give you everything you want, still in the mind, they don't care about me. Reputation, they don't care about me. Tomorrow, they don't care about me. Next tomorrow, they don't care about me. So it's obsessive, and then you repeat it and you continue.
Yeah.
Sexy,
That-
like
I
something.
think
The thought ritual.
control that. Like, hey, you're a dog, by the way. So the controlling part now it's in that's not how I relate to you. Because you got this addiction, the controlling is heightened up. Like, are you going to be okay in that environment? Are you going to do this?
Yeah.
Are you? And it's like, I don't know how you felt. It was like releasing.
Yes, 100%. But you've got to get to a place where you got to be okay with that, because, like, you know what, we do so much damage to our loved ones that policing or control, as we call it, we actually should be okay with it because of what we put them through. So there will be a time, after a long time, where healing will take place and things will normal out. While we're in this transition phase between getting clean and sober, there is no normality. There is going to be abuse. There's going to be manipulation. There's going to be all sorts of things. 1 minute he's going to be loving you. Next minute he's going to be hating you. So from your side, you also need to learn to you gotta have to either you gotta kind of embrace that and go, okay, this is just him going through his motions now, but
So-
it will get better.
So what happens is that in that cycle of whatever's happening, your mind is the boundary. So while we love our loved ones who are struggling with addiction, there's boundaries.
Correct.
And those boundaries can never move.
Yeah.
The minute you move the boundary, the manipulation will start happening.
Correct.
So I also wanted to just mention that I do believe, because now I'm talking about Martin with abandonment issues as well, there is an element of manipulation that comes in with, and I'm not saying that it's not true that you were abandoned or that you feel abandoned. That is real, it's true. But you've also learned in your pain how to survive under those circumstances, and you also use manipulation to get what you want. So,
Yeah.
like he says to you, "I love you. I'm going to be so good, be so great next year," and then the next breath, "Listen, can you buy me a bottle of wine and 2 beers?" But now what he's saying is, "But this year I'm still going to celebrate." and have fun."
yeah. This year I'm
Okay.
still not told.
But next year, yeah, next, and that's exactly what he said to me too. I promise you, as of January, I am going to kick the habit. And I was like, January,
I said those exact same words.
February,
Okay.
March came, and I was like, no,
Okay.
this is not happening.
Guys, I don't want to, this is such an amazing discussion, but we are running out of time. We are actually already about 10 minutes over time, but I want to start tying this up. So I'm going to try and sum this all up now in the next 10 minutes. Guys, really, if you want more information on this, please get hold of us during our office hours, or phone us or email us even, and let's help you with your things that you're going through as well. But we do, for time's sake, need to start tying it up, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think time is not our friend. It's a lot of stuff that we need to discuss with time.
But we did, so
What
what
we can do
we
is-
were going to go into now was what's on here. Hey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe I can just quickly wash it. If we look at the starting of this session, we talked about danger, response, and danger, and that has to do with the negative effects of fear. So if we look at that, we can move into what are we going to do in a situation where we are confronted with danger, and that can actually be, our response can actually be a fight or flight or freeze response, which is attached with the emotion fear. The experience of or danger can be drug related, can be incident, can be hurt, can be from a loved one, can be anything that possesses a danger to us, can be not meeting up to set standards or expectation of others. So how do we deal with fear from stress-related issues? So psychologically, there are various ways, but the breathing techniques of breathing in and out doesn't make sense to me. But it can only make sense when it's directed to a specific. But it can only make sense when it's directed to a specific fear, or to the panic and the fear. With this being said, the practical step sometimes it revolves around facing our fears, and why this is because emotional response is dependable on the fear. So why not face the fear? So sometimes it's not about techniques to beat fear. Sometimes you don't need techniques. Sometimes it can be whatever is triggering that emotional response. So I give an example as we go further, but I'm just trying to bring that up now. So to deal with fear, in my own opinion, it's not just about practical steps, but also dealing with the stressors. Stressors can be things that actually cause the fear. Maybe if you've had a traumatic experience, maybe an accident, the stressor is going to be the accident itself. So you need to deal with that, whatever causes that fear that you're having inside you. And maybe a technique that somebody or a therapist or whatever is telling you something will work to actually deal with the fear. So this means that for us to deal with fear, we need to apply the right solution, like the right answer to that specific fear that we're dealing with. And we can't generalize fear, It has to be something that is specific, and it needs to work. Solutions that we have needs to work for the specific fear that you're facing, So what I came up with was in this booklet, which is the first one is addressing the stressors, which is knowing that all fear is not about taking deep breaths or taking pills, knowing that dealing with whatever that caused it in the first place can provide some reliefs, and you just have to face your fear for you to get that relief. And then and the second step is addressing emotions. Knowing that you can change emotional response, or manage or control the emotional response. If not, it will become a disorder, as you can't go back in time to stop traumatic events. So in case of traumatic events like abuse and all that, so you can't go back in the past and change it.
Yeah.
But you can control the emotional response that you're getting. So that you can also get help on that from cognitive behavioral therapy. So if I have to go back into this first, addressing stressors and addressing emotions, I'm going to give an example now of that. Okay. So example one.
Sure. Of course.
So number one for addressing stressors. Let's say this is an example. Let's say you have to pay your bills end of the month, and you're having anxiety and stress. The stress itself is not going to fix the fact that you need to get multiple incomes, or you need to increase your.
Do you guys
salary.
agree? Do you agree with that? If you've got bills to pay and you're sitting and stressing about paying these bills, is that going to bring in the money? No. So what would be the best solution?
The best solution is to deal with the stressors, which is in case of a bill, you need to get a job, you need to get a good paying job, you need to get multiple streams of income. So that is going to resolve that anxiety and that fear that anxiety that you're facing. But most people would actually drink pills or breathe in and out to actually fix that. So how is that going to work? Because that is going to be constant in your life, the fact that your bills are not being paid. If you don't find a solution of getting a proper job or working on multiple streams of income, you're not going to be able to resolve it. It's just an example. So for solution number 2, the example for that, which is addressing emotions. Okay, the example would be experiences you can't go back in time to change, like traumatic events like accident, murder, rape, and things that you have no control over, experiences that you have no control over. So on those type of experiences, all you need to do is to address the emotional response, which is work on that emotion, because it changes, it's not constant. But the same way something damages is the same way you can repair it.
Sure, makes sense.
These two solutions determine our future. So if we are dealing with disorders already, or we will deal with disorders in the future, if we continue applying solutions that are not suitable for the actual fear we are dealing with, the solution means we understand the fear and we are orientated on the right solution, because you can drink all the pills in the world and still continue to deal with that same fear. You can breathe from Africa to Europe and still not beat or control emotional response of panic. The right techniques to beat fear is applying the right solution.
Correct.
So general solutions to deal with fear, that is what you have in the questionnaires. So it's just on the pamphlet, so it's just the end of the session. So we can use cognitive behavioral therapy, which depends on what the phobia is, like especially social phobia. Like in terms of addiction, right? People can have this grandiose behavior, and there's no empathy with grandiose behavior. So you're going to hurt a lot of people. People that cares about you, you're even going to hurt yourself. So for that, you actually need cognitive behavioral therapy. You need someone that can guide you, because you're born in relationships and you're actually hurting yourself and the people around you. So then we go into, to deal with fear, we're moving into increasing your anxiety level, which is engaging in more dangerous activities like skydiving, swimming with the sharks, bungee jumping, skinny dip, car racing, haunted house. So sometimes our anxiety level can increase though, and if we expose ourselves to levels levels that can increase it, like scary levels, we can increase that anxiety that we're facing. Because the moment we get scared to a certain point that we've never been before, some type of little anxiety wouldn't actually make us, wouldn't really give us that fear that is disturbing us. And also you have visualizing a happy place or a happy time. So this gives more with imagination of past events, place, time, using that happiness to suit yourself till you feel more relaxed. And then taking deep breaths helps with managing the stress, the tension or panic in a triggering situation. So you simply take deep breaths through the entire panic till you feel calm. It takes away the fear when the emotions are level and not elevated. Challenge fearful thoughts. Find the evidence. Who has this fear? Who has this fear? What I'm facing. Find the evidence. What I'm facing. Who has this thing happened to before? And what happened to them? Did they die or did they come out of this? If you can find the evidence that this person actually came out of this, that means anybody can do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes we need to challenge fearful thoughts.
100%.
So the next one is sharing. Just like we have a group discussion on fear, we are also sharing our fears and we're also helping others to deal with it. And sometimes it has to be an environment that we trust, the people that we're sharing these things about ourselves with. So we can share our fears with people that we love or people that we can trust. It can be a professional, it can be family members, it can be, it can be anybody that you find comfort and trust in to share what your fears are. And sometimes we need to return back to the basics. can return back to nature, enjoying time in nature, having fun. Take your mind off things, go for work, eat nice meal, sports, sleep, play music, funny animations, just to take your mind, like return back to the basics, things that you used to do before things get so complicated. So perfection, realizing that no one is perfect, life is demanding, and there are bad days and setbacks. It is perfect to remind yourself that life is messy and don't be too harsh on yourself. And the fact is, we can never be perfect, but we just have to work on our mistakes, and stop using those mistakes as our emotional response to be scared, using that to attack ourselves. We need to understand that we can never be perfect like God. We just have to work on ourselves. We need to work. That's why we work on ourselves each day.
Correct.
So reward yourself. That is the last, So learn to applaud yourself on your achievements. Weaponize it. Use this achievement as a weapon against anxiety or depression. So when you achieve things, start creating good memories or reward. So an example would maybe for a wedding, right? A wedding anniversary. You went for a fancy dinner. The achievement is the wedding. The reward is the dinner you enjoyed. Maybe you buy yourself a pair of shoes or a book or anything that makes you happy each month after working so hard. So sometimes you need to applaud yourself for every achievement you have. It's not that you're doing it because it's nice and rosy and sweet. You're doing it for days that are dark. So this achievement that you have, you can actually go back to the rewards and use that to motivate yourself. Use it to change that emotional response of fear that you're having. So that is the final steps. And the conclusion will be the future we want for ourselves is very much at our reach. We have a choice to choose the positive effect of fear, which promises a new growth filled with relief. We can't control the danger of fear, but we shouldn't allow them to control and dictate our every life steps. So we can manage and change the emotional response because we are dependent on fear and not independent on their own until they become disorders. This guidance step is to help work on fears, and yes, we can resolve that. We can resolve our fears. So I think this is the conclusion.
So isn't that great, guys? There is a solution to every problem. Nothing is dire straits that you actually need to die for it. Okay? I love what he said when he said that the future we want for ourselves is very much within our reach. Okay? We have a choice to choose the positive effect of fear, which promises new growth and filled with relief. We can't control the dangers of fear, but we shouldn't allow them to control and dictate our every life step.
Correct.
Isn't that reassuring? When you take control of what's happening in your life when it comes to fear and emotion. Okay? Just a quick one before we leave. I just want to applaud you for acknowledging that you're a narcissist, because narcissists never admit that they may be narcissists. And I also want you to just think about the fact that maybe the narcissism is presenting itself in addiction. You might actually not be a true narcissist. It's presenting itself in the addiction.
Yep.
Once the toxin is out and you're in a recovery, you may find that person, it was part of the addict. So just bear that in mind, because usually a narcissist would never admit it. That's why they're narcissists.
On YouTube, they say men generally and so is people.
But still, just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Listen, thank you so much for sitting through this session. I know it was a bit longer than normal, but I think there was a lot of good information here. Like I said, if you've got any questions or you want to discuss anything further, just get hold of us on our numbers. I think our numbers are printed on the bottom of this pamphlet or email us on info@onewaysoberliving.co.za and we can answer any more questions that you might have. And like we said, the good news is that there is hope. There is a way out. You don't have to be stuck in your current circumstance or in that thing that's holding you captive. There is a way out. I remember there was a time that I was there and I've moved past it now. And if I can do it, we can all do it. So there is hope. Don't ever think that you're stuck in that place. Cool. Awesome. I'm going to close in prayer real quick and then...
Just kind of anyway of answer stuff.
Yeah.
Right, read it, and first I'll put it in the group.
Okay, cool. I've been taking photos of it. Yes, yeah. Okay. So, all right. Cool, guys. I'm just going to close in prayer real quick. Heavenly Father, we just come to you this evening. We want to say thank you that through you we can achieve, Lord, that we can be overcomers, Lord, that we don't have to stay stuck in that place that binds us and bounds us, Lord, that holds us back from moving forward. Father God, I pray against these fears that are stopping us from moving forward, wherever we are, whichever fears those are, Lord. Lord, I just want to say thank you that through you we are set free, Lord. And I just pray for each and every single one of us that we gain victory now, Lord, that we take that victory, Lord, and we start to put it under our belt and we start moving forward and we claim that victory in your special name, Lord, that we can embrace that victory, Lord, that we don't have to stay stuck and stagnant and paralyzed by these fears. Lord, I just want to pray against any of these disorders that as they might start to build in our lives, Lord, I pray against those, Lord. I also pray that if we really feel we need to, that we go and seek medical help, that we go and speak to our doctors, Lord, and if we need to be put on some sort of medication for a short period of time to help us overcome these things, then, Lord, I just pray that we will make those right decisions, Lord. So, Father, I just want to say thank you for this evening. Thank you for this message. Thank you for Henry, that he was able to enlighten us more from a psychology point of view on fear, Lord. And I just pray that we will take this message with us into this week, Lord. I pray that you'll guide us, protect us, and keep us safe. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, awesome.
All the information.
There's a lot of information. It is always a lot of information. Dominique, you can take it with. Okay, good.
Is it collection?
Hey?
Donations for the Christmas party.
Donations for the Christmas party you can put in the box, man. Thanks. Listen, we hope to see you on the 12th. We're going to have pizza and a joel, bro. Huh?
12 years?
It's 2 weeks from now.
What day is it?
Monday. So instead of the meeting, we're going to have a... Yeah. Cool. Lekker. Have a good week, man. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. Till next time, guys. Okay.